Today, I'll be talking about some goofy guys, some of my characters, as well as the world they live in, and the story that made them the way they are. And after that, I'll explain some design choices and talk a bit about the whole metaphor thing. By the way, feel free to pause, whenever, because I'm gonna be saying a lot. Alrighty, let's get into it. Starting with the world. This world, that I'm going to be calling Decom Dolls, is essentially Earth, but with different geography and a somewhat different history that I will not be getting into. Apologies, but this is a character-focused story. Okay, so in this world, most humans live in giant metropolitan areas that are completely man-made. Humanoid robots that look like dolls, for legal reasons, care for it. Though the majority of doll-esque robots in existence live far away from those cities in little towns and suburbs, living human lives with man-made consciences and emotional capacity. I'm not delving deep into this either, but it's made possible with certain computer modules. Now then, back to locations. The main area in Decom Dolls are mostly based on my experiences with Chicago and its surrounding areas. So, take that how you will. The cities in relation to the story are just a source of food and materials for the main characters. But our story-important town is a simple but active one, and near the suburbs named Silva_3. I'll be calling it Silva, with everything you need just a short walk away. In this charming town, you've got everything you need. Several restaurants, convenience stores, small shops that mostly do business of trade, and several entertainment and recreational areas. And a mechanic shop, which is essentially a robot hospital, because this mechanic shop just so happens to be the home of our main cast. Speaking of, let me introduce you to our main cast. Look at them! They're so silly! Okay, so the first of our main cast I'll be talking about is Warren, a human mechanic who moved to Silva to get closer to robots. He's always empathized more with robots than humans and loves helping them. One of his main goals in life is to help them experience true humanity, mainly via emotion. He runs a mechanic shop, and with the way Silva operates, only really asks for human-safe food as payment for any repairs or upgrades the robots ask for. He, like most shops in Silva, gets spare, unused, and extra supplies from nearby the city. Oftentimes, he gets supplies from other mechanics that he used to work with. Oh, by the way, his different colored eye is a mechanical one. That one specifically. He is the creator of the main robots in the story, and essentially gave the second story of his shop to them. One of his main motivations is to make and take care of an emotionally human robot. Looks like someone left this here. Wonder what that's about. Oh, looky here! The second of our main cast! A robot named P3 is also referred to as Prince around townspeople. It carries a plush bunny with it everywhere, and is the youngest robot in the shop, both in program age and creation date, though it uses the oldest materials out of almost everyone in town. P3 is the visual culmination of the kid and teen robots in the town, and spends most of its time around them. P3 has a sassy, moody personality, and is programmed to care for the other robots' lives and well-being. It's seen by the kids and teens of the town as the cool, protective type that's also kinda scary at times. Although, when around the other robots in the shop, it's treated a lot more like the child it is. P3 is the least sure of itself in all of the shop. It wonders why Warren is so committed to having robots experience emotions the way humans do, oftentimes drawing the conclusion that everyone's just made to accomplish a predetermined job. P3 is also the most cautious of the shop, though it usually doesn't express its concern, oftentimes just acting the opposite. P3 does have the weakest materials and has been hurt before. Physically, I mean. The third of our main cast is another robot named M2, M2 being Mo out of Shop. M2 is the programmed oldest of the robots in Shop, but it's the second to last one to be made. They were programmed to be calm and relatable to adults and elders, oftentimes acting to appear as them or as their grown children, and is well liked by those M2 talks to. When around others in the shop, M2 usually just talks to himself in the nearest corner, only really talking with the others and expressing concerns. M2, for the most part, finds everything being done as useless and is overall incredibly nihilistic about everything, unrelated to how they were programmed, and constantly expresses wanting to just abandon everything and do nothing until their battery dies. M2 acts bored most of the time and doesn't talk much, usually passing time doing yo-yo tricks. That one specifically is their favorite. Now, I completely neglected to mention that, unlike the rest of the robots in town, the ones in the shop do not have the computer module that allows them to express emotions. It's why I've been mentioning acting so much. Don't worry, I'll explain why later. Now then, for our fourth and final of our main characters, the robot Y1. She is called Yara at a shop. Girly Pop is energetic and friendly, just as programmed, though she can be nosy at times. Y1 carries around a legally distinct pocket little penny at all times, using it as a conversation starter. Y1 spends most of her time at a shop with other robots at social areas and events. Y1 was made to appeal to young adults and has the most advanced materials out of all the robots in the shop. She's got the most connections and trust from the townspeople because of her non-playfulness and friendliness. So, once she's at shop, she usually just lays in bed while her system cools down. Literally, her system overheats from constantly processing information. And speaking of it, she's usually processing multiple things at once, and has gotten really good at making excuses for emergency cooling, for lack of a better term. Y1 is the most committed to Warren's goal, mostly just out of sheer curiosity, and is the best in shop at fitting her role. When other robots are around, she acts like an older sister to P3, though when it's just the shop robots, and she's not cooling down her system, she's usually asking plenty of questions. Alrighty then! Since I've given a rundown on all the important characters, it's time to move on to the story. I lied. Because this story starts with Warren and his motivation to create a program that will allow robots to experience emotions exactly like humans. And the first test of this program? A robot named AJ, who was 1, meant to test Warren's program, but 2, meant to serve as a surrogate son. The kid was supposed to be kind and adventurous, a type to explore and experience life, and help anyone lost along the way. What was that? Oh. Okay, but that's clearly not what happened. And well, Warren wanted to test his program in a controlled environment, so his floor building, that being the third. He made lunch for the two of them and added his program into AJ's emotional computer module. And unbeknownst to Warren, the program had overwhelmed AJ's computer module, causing a chain reaction that made AJ nothing more than just a reactive object. With what little information that AJ had on anything, and Warren trying to understand what went wrong, Warren ended up losing an eye, and AJ ran away immediately after. The program was better labeled as a virus. With a broken system and boatloads of new information being taken in by AJ, he ran low on battery quickly. AJ was programmed to be able to recharge his system on his own. As he stumbled into an empty restaurant, he set himself up to charge. And as a virus does, it infected the public charging course. AJ was gone by the next day. The virus spread to those who used the port, but effect isn't immediate, just whenever an infected robot experiences a new or particularly strong emotion. Though, sure enough, in the following days, multiple robots succumbed to the effects of the virus. While the townspeople didn't understand what was happening, Warren collected a few dots on his own. The first one being the program he made was the cause of all the robots' sudden loss of personality and reactiveness, and that emotional modules were the trigger. Wanting to fix this disaster he caused, Warren made Y1, a robot that couldn't experience emotions from not having an emotional module, that would therefore be immune to the virus. He trained her to be able to imitate normal behaviors, and, more importantly, get close to the townsfolk to know when a robot is acting strange and is possibly infected, identify an infected robot, temporarily decommission them, bring them to the shop to investigate and hopefully cure, and repeat. Y1 was given a tool that could sense any robot within a certain radius with an emotional module, disguised as a pocketable penny. It was disguised as a pocketable penny because most of the dangerous reactions from robots usually came when the robots came in contact with something they didn't understand or was different. Oh, by the way, pocketable pennies were quite popular during the time that this story takes place. This solution of decommissioning the doll robots worked brilliantly, though the amount of people visibly affected started to concern the townspeople, which is kind of the last thing that should happen when a virus triggers with emotions. So, Warren made M2 and shortly after P3 to have a wider reach of information and faster affected robot decommission rates. M2's yo-yo is made almost entirely out of metal, and P3's plush bunny has the mass and wieldability of nunchucks. Woohoo! Allowing them to knock the heads of the robots right off their bodies. And fun fact, the robots' computing components are all in the head, and their batteries and stuff like that are all in their torso, just like humans. And robot heads can be removed easily with enough force. So, while these two options are not ideal for Warren, I mean, the heads of the robots are the most important when identifying each other, followed by personality, it at least made sure that only the infected robots would be temporarily decommissioned. Y1's tool had hurt non-infected robots before. Warren didn't tell any of them how or why all of this started, just that for everyone's safety they had to fix the problem. The last thing Warren wanted was to lose the townspeople's trust, and just in case AJ came back somehow, the townspeople wouldn't resent him. Although, programming notably curious robots would lead to them asking questions, or, more likely, looking for answers themselves. Okay, really sorry for the abrupt cutoff, but I gotta make sure I have enough time to finish this project in time. And, that was a lot of information, so we'll take a little break for a minute. Again, really sorry, but it's time to talk about metaphors, and we got kinda a lot. But lately you've been focusing too much on yourself. So how many milligrams of you are still left in yourself? The Decom Dolls word itself has some metaphors of its own, like how humans live in completely different places, only ever supporting the towns from the sidelines, much like a large majority of my friends. And also, Decom Dolls is kind of a general metaphor for relationships. I'll get more to specifically why later. But first, I'll be talking about Warren. In a way, he's a metaphor for my want to share my stories, and if I even should. Warren is inherently pretty selfish and wants nothing more than to share the human experience with robots. But it's not like he asked, and that exact thought process is what started basically all his problems. The creation of the virus caused him to, want to lose an eye, but also stop caring for himself. His outfit is patched together and old, and he's often cold and needs to wear multiple layers to keep a steady hand. Another thing about him is his emotional investment, putting so much time into making AJ and the virus for them to both immediately go wrong. It's sort of how I feel about sharing my stories. What if one of the few things I invest all my time and effort into makes more problems for me? And the next silly guy I'll be talking about is P3. It kind of represents how I perceive myself, both external and internal. And fun fact, P3 was the first part of this world I made up, and was originally just a cool design I made, and like, so in a way it kind of represents, or is a metaphor for, self-expression. Gosh, it was so tiny, look at it! Goofy eye. Following P3 is M2, a metaphor for how it takes to meeting or interacting with new people, even if they're people I think I'd get along with or think are cool. I usually just take that with pessimism and zero expectation of advancing anywhere past, how was your day? Eventually, if enough time passes, I end up convincing myself that it'd just be better if I never talked to that person again. But that's a problem for another day. M2 is also the most put together of all the robots, specifically visually, with large general clothing and tidy hair, kinda like their personality. Really simple in one note. Now then, Y1. A girl eats the popsicle with her silly large amounts of processing and almost odd times, and a quirky need to cool off after interacting with other robots. I don't. I think that's all I've got to say about these very, very silly guys. Well, thanks for listening to me rant for however long this video is, and I don't know, observe the stars tonight if possible. They're actually really pretty.